This video is almost certainly getting demonetized, so a special thanks to our patrons like Seth H, who make these videos possible. A link to support us is in the description. Prince Andrew is 9th in line to the British throne, and, well, is it an understatement to say he's in trouble? Well, with alleged sexual abuse, trafficking, and an association with Jeffrey Epstein against his name, it probably is downplaying it a bit. And things are getting worse for Andrew, with a US court case filed against him earlier this week, and concerns that the FBI might want a word. So it's probably worth unpacking what happens next, and what Prince Andrew could do right now. On Monday, Virginia Roberts Giuffre filed a lawsuit in the state of New York against Prince Andrew, alleging that the Duke of York sexually abused her on 3 occasions, once in London, once in New York, and once in the US Virgin Islands. What makes it even worse is the claim that she was procured for convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, Andrew's former friend, and that she was underage at the time. This is obviously a very serious allegation, so it's unsurprising that it's being taken seriously, with the case likely to make it to trial in New York. Whether we'll see Andrew take the stand, though, is another question. Remember that interview he did with Newsnight in order to clear his name?
I don't know why I've collected that title, because I never have really partied.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
You've been on his private plane?
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island?
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach?
Yes.
You've visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London?
Yes.
So in 2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday.
At the time, I don't think certainly I wasn't aware when the invitation was issued what was going on in the United States.
In 2008, he was convicted of soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together.
No offence to Emily Maitlis, she's a great journalist, but if this is what we get from her, then imagine what would happen under oath with an attorney pressing hard. So the Duke might want to avoid heading to the US to take the stand. It's not just potential embarrassment or self-incrimination either. Heading to the US could also have some very serious, tangible consequences. The FBI is still investigating crimes connected to Jeffrey Epstein, with his former girlfriend heading to trial for sex trafficking charges later in the year. So, going to America could lead to the FBI wanting a chat, something that the prince might want to avoid. So, how can he dodge a trip to New York and the defendant's chair? Well, he could ensure that it never gets to trial, settle outside of court. This is difficult too, though, as the Duke has always denied any wrongdoing. So, settling the case without an admission of guilt or any reputational damage to him or the crown could be very difficult. Andrew doesn't need to worry about extradition, as this is a civil, not a criminal case, so he can avoid the country, but just not going to the US probably isn't a good idea either. This case might be happening in another country, but if he ignores the problem, the civil trial would likely still go ahead, and if he doesn't show up, the judge is much more likely to side with Ms. Giuffre, resulting in not only a guilty verdict for Andrew, but officially label him as a sex offender. And as Giuffre's lawyer helpfully emphasised, it wouldn't just be a US ruling, but one enforced in virtually every civilised country in the world. Okay, so avoiding the US doesn't stop the case, so what else could he do? Well, he could avoid the FBI issue by attempting to have the case transferred to the UK. More specifically, the High Court in London, where some speculate he might have better chances, with the potential of the case being thrown out due to a lack of evidence, thanks to different standards used in British cases. This too doesn't come without risks though, because being found guilty on home turf could be even more damaging. So it looks like all potential avenues aren't great then. But there is one emergency route, a real emergency shoot: sovereign immunity. As we know, Andrew is a prince, a duke, 9th in line to the throne no less, and there are perks that come with that. One potential perk is crown immunity, which allows certain protections from lawsuits when you're working as a member of the royal family. The argument could therefore be that he was working on behalf of the British state at the time, and as such has immunity from these charges. I probably don't need to explain why this is bad though. Implicating the royal family and using the crown as a shield from child sex abuse charges isn't going to paint the monarchy in the best light, so his mother might have something to say about it. Even if the Queen doesn't get involved though, the claim still might not stick. Immunity only holds for close royals, and with Andrew stepping back from royal duties in 2019, many believe he wouldn't be covered anyway. In fact, UCL professor Bob Morris has said that the immunity doesn't apply to anyone but the Queen anyway, so Andrew has no particular personal immunity. Andrew is in the same position as any other UK citizen. Other royals in the past have received immunity, but only when their work clearly related to their positions, allowing them more general diplomatic immunity. But when it comes to Epstein and private islands, it's hard to argue that there's any diplomatic or official justification. All in all then, there are a few good routes forward for Andrew, with his past actions coming back to haunt him and damaging the curated image of the royal family as a whole. Pressure is also being applied to the Prime Minister, with some asking Johnson to intervene or comment on the issue. It's a difficult spot for Johnson, though, who's previously been sceptical of investigations like this.
One comment I would make is I think an awful lot of money, an awful lot of police time now goes into these historic offences and all this malarkey, and, 60 million pounds I saw was being spaffed up the wall on, some investigation into historic child abuse and all this kind of thing. Well, what on earth is that going to do to protect the public now?
In the light of comments like these, it's hard to know what tone Johnson could take to avoid criticism and balance the difficult line of public opinion. But comment below what you think Andrew ought to do next, and if the royals or Johnson ought to weigh in. If you're into royal content, then be sure to check out the recent video we released on the TLDR Global channel, where we explain royal families around the world, explaining the types of royalty and the future of monarchy in an increasingly democratic world. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and TLDR Global to be updated when we release videos in the future. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that is in the description.